Scottie Barnes' max contract has just kicked in for the Raptors, and I think it's fair to say that he didn't quite play up to that max contract standard last season, but here's what he can do to change that for the upcoming season. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, welcome back to Amateur Sports. This is the YouTube channel that is dedicated to giving you Toronto Raptors content in videos like this and live streams on the channel. Make sure you do smash that like button if you enjoyed this episode along the way. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more Raptors content all off season and beyond. But the focus today is all about Scottie Barnes. And I said in the intro, you could treat it perhaps as a bit harsh, but I think it's fair to say, like I said, that Scottie Barnes last season, in the final year of his rookie contract, did not quite play up to the max contract standard that we were kind of hoping for after giving him that 5-year rookie max extension worth $224 million. Perhaps we were expecting a little bit more for the former rookie of the year. He averaged 19.3 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, 5.8 assists. Like, these numbers are pretty good. I'd say I'm decently happy with these numbers, but it's the efficiency where we maybe had a little bit to be desired. He averaged under 45% shooting from the field and only 27% shooting from three. A real step down in his three-point percentage, which led to a true shooting percentage of 52.3. Now, not to be overly negative, but a 52.3 true shooting percentage is not good. Like, it's just not that good. So we need to see improvements for the upcoming season, especially when you consider how much money he's actually going to be making for the next 5 years. Like, Barnes will be making around $38.5 million this season, and that number is just going to continue to grow to 41.7, 44.8, 47.9, and eventually it will get to $51 million for the player in 2029-2030. So, as much as Barnes, we know, is a good player, and last season, that wasn't that bad. It wasn't a bad season. It absolutely wasn't a bad season. It was a fine season. But I think there are different expectations that need to be in place for a player who is making this much money. I think that's fair. I don't think that's overly critical. I don't think that's overly negative. I like Barnes. I really respect Barnes as a basketball player. But there's certain elements of his game that we can fine-tune to take that game to the next level and really make this guy a superstar. And that's what you want to see for a player making the max, making this much money. And after the Raptors made the bold move in acquiring Brandon Ingram at the trade deadline in 2025, there has to be some desire in place to go and make the playoffs this season. I mean, Barnes has to have that desire. Like, it's been 2 years of tanking for the Raptors. I'm sure this guy wants to get this team back into the playoffs. He's been there before. He wants to get back there again. And if the Raptors are going to do it, he is going to have to be one of the driving forces in making that happen. So let's start to dig in on exactly what Barnes needs to fine-tune about his game. And I think we'll start off with the very obvious one. It's the shooting. Barnes really changed his game last season in his shot diet, and there were elements that aided to a bit more success, but some things that really didn't help him. Last season, Barnes had a lot more of the ball handling duty, and though the numbers don't quite reflect it with the three-point attempts, like 2 seasons ago, he took almost 5 3-point attempts per game. This season, he shot 34% from three. Like, that was pretty good. I kind of wanted him to build off that last season, but only took 4.3 3-point attempts per game, where, again, he shot 27.1%. But it's important to remember that in the middle of the season, Barnes was taking like 6, 7, 8 3-point attempts per game for like a good month or two. And Darko Rajakovic, Raptors head coach, was saying, I'm not happy with the 3-point shooting because I want him to take more 3-point shots per game. As his efficiency, wasn't looking very good from three, he started taking less and less threes, and then near the end of the season, he was pretty much like not taking any threes for the Raptors. That's just going to have to change. I'm not wanting Barnes to take 6, 7, 8 3-point attempts per game, but we do need him to take like around 5 attempts per game, and we do need him to start hitting more. Plain and simple, we need him to be able to hit at least 30% from three. We need other teams to not be able to ignore him on the outside, because a lot of those, 6, 7, 8 3-point attempts, where those were coming from was him dribbling the ball up the court, walking forward it on the perimeter, and he's just wide open all the time in the perimeter, so he was just letting fly, which I think was fine. Then as we started to address, like, okay, they're not falling, let's shift his game away from this. So, the biggest thing that will enhance his game is the three-point shooting. That will start to get him more attention on the outside, which will provide more spacing to his teammates. That will generate more aggressive closeouts on his shoot on his shots from the outside, which will allow him to, pump and drive, put the ball in the deck, and have more space to attack the rim. Like, shooting is just the magical thing that makes every part of your game easier and every part of everyone else's game easier, because you're just creating so much more space for you to be able to play your game and your teammates to be able to play their game. But that's obviously the obvious one. We want to see the three-point shooting increased, and hopefully I would suspect and I would imagine that he is in the lab and he is working on that three-point shot. But I think one of the bigger things that also needs to change for the player as we move closer and closer to the rim for this video is the mid-range shot. I'm really curious, and I'll put it this way. I'm very curious how we landed on like a turnaround fadeaway mid-range shot becoming his go-to move. Barnes is skilled. He's not the most skilled ball handler, but he's a skilled player. He's a very talented player. I think we can get to a point where we don't have to settle for shots in mid-range. Like, how did this become the go-to move for Scottie Barnes to get his points? Like, that is not helping his efficiency. I've talked about Brandon Ingram on this channel, and I talk about him shooting mid-range. That's, Brandon Ingram's a very good mid-range shooter. You green-light Brandon Ingram in mid-range because the mid-range shot's not an efficient shot in the NBA efficiency landscape, in the analytics landscape. Certain players you designate as being good enough at the mid-range shot that, yes, you allow them to do. I'm not saying never shoot in mid-range because you need to mix up your game enough, especially as one of the focal points of the offense like Scottie Barnes. But again, it's just become the go-to move for him to shoot in mid-range. And I don't know how much of that is coaching. I don't know how much of that is on Barnes. It's probably a combination of both. But we need better coaching to eliminate the amount of shots he's taking in those areas. And we need Barnes to fight for better looks more often. Like, you're a good player, get a better look than that. Sometimes, you're going to have to take that shot, but that should be a last resort. That should be shot clocks winding down, or like you can't get past the defender, you've got to let one fly, that sort of thing. We can get a better look for Scottie Barnes than a mid-range shot, especially, the turnaround fadeaway ones. That's also going to help his efficiency. So even if the three-point shot isn't quite falling as much, like, we still want to see that change because it's not a super efficient shot. And I think it will it has to help his game if he's hunting more efficient shots. The final thing that I wanted to point out was just his touch, feel, finishing around the rim. Not right at the rim, because when he's inside 3 feet, he's nearly a 70% shooter. Like, that's great. That's great. That's what you want to see when you're right at him, especially a player Scottie Barnes' size. But then when we get a little bit further out, we move out of the restricted area, 3 to 10 feet, all of a sudden we plummet down to 43% shooting for Barnes. That's not good enough. Like, 4 years in, your touch as a player who's playing as a big a lot of the times, like, not as a center, but like as a power forward, you've got to be able to knock down more than that. Like, you've got to be a little bit more automatic on those 5-foot hook shots, 5-foot, turnaround, not quite a jumper, but like one-handers. Sometimes on the, like, hitting a runner there. We've got to be a lot better in these areas. That sort of touch and feel around the rim, that's just got to come to be a lot more consistent for the player. And it's curious how it's dropped on a year-to-year basis. Like, in his rookie season, he shot 50% in these areas. Then it went to 45%. Then it went to 42.9%. Then last season was 42.8%. Why are we moving in the wrong direction when it comes to finishing in the 3 to 10 foot range? And as much as the statistics kind of back it up, the eye test really showcased that he needed to improve in those areas last season. What is good is that his shooting from 10 to 16 feet went from 30% all the way up to 46% last season. Those are those long mid-range shots. And sure, that's like decently efficient shooting. Like, just when you think about it, like 46% shooting, okay, that's fine in mid-range. That's just not an efficient shot in the NBA. So I'd rather him not take these shots and focus on getting better in these other areas. The ones that are going to have a higher contribution level to his success and to the Raptors' success overall. So I think, like, I very much believe in Barnes as a player. He grew so much as a defender last season, and I think he's going to get even better this season. That's fantastic. Like, the double big lineups we'll be able to have with him and Pirtle. The rebounding there is going to be great. The interior defense there is going to be great. We know Barnes can also do a job on the perimeter defensively. It's just the offense. And I think playing next to a player in Brandon Ingram who will draw a lot of attention away from Barnes, it could just alleviate enough of the pressure where Barnes can just take shots that are much more efficient and much smarter and in much better areas. So hopefully he improves from three, but like keep doing a lot of the same stuff there. Maybe less off the dribble, more catch and shoot, but keep taking the threes. Focus less on getting your shot in mid-range and work harder to get that better shot within 10 feet. Get close to the rim. Get right to the rim on a lot of occasions. Like when Barnes really wants to be aggressive, like in fourth quarter situations, he can seemingly get to the rim at will, and you wonder, why can't he do this for the whole game? Why are we saving it for these latter stages of games or these specific pockets of games? And just improving that touch and feel around them. Get those reps in the practice room, in the lab, whatever you want to call it. Get those reps in 5-6 feet away, turnarounds, hooks, everything. Just turn that into your bread and butter. Just become way more automatic in these spots. And we've got a player in Scottie Barnes who is much closer to earning that superstar status and possibly an all-star appearance this season if the Raptors are in that playoff hunt.